To another question. This from Susan Felton, please.
Does the proposal to allow gay marriages undermine the institution of marriage as a whole?
This is a hornet's nest that's been stirred up because the government is starting a consultation on how to implement equal civil marriage, and Cardinal O'Brien in Scotland laid into them as a grotesque subversion of a universally accepted human right and said it would shame the United Kingdom. Will Young.
I'm gay. I'm up first. That man's mad. I think he's mad, that man. I mean, to begin with, as a gay man, gay marriage was not the top of my agenda for gay rights. What was actually the negative use of gay in schools, which was mentioned last week, so I won't go on about it. But since I've heard these disgusting, repellent, archaic words from various people, particularly that awful man from Scotland, I've got kind of more and more riled about it. I mean, this man said that it would be grotesque, gay marriage. He also likened it to slavery. He's also talking, incidentally, from an institution that is hardly been heralded as the paragon of moral virtue for the last 2 years. If this guy had been saying it, been talking like this against race or against religion, he'd be in court now. But he's still allowed to go on the Today programme, and then I read articles in the papers where people sort of say, well, he did go a little bit over the top because he said grotesque, and he did liken gay marriage to slavery, but maybe he still has a point. So he's crazy, so he's out the picture. I didn't realise that the Institute of Marriage was purely for heterosexual couples. I mean, most people that I know, straight and gay, use the term gay marriage. Where I've come to on this is when I get married, if and when I get married, I want now to have it legal, that I can say I'm having a gay marriage. And I think it is important. And I think that there is a latent, sleepy homophobia that runs underneath this rhetoric that's been going on over the last 2 weeks. Well, they've been given civil partnership, but they shouldn't really have marriage. Come out, call a spade, say you still don't agree with it, because all this sort of pussyfooting around isn't getting to the true issue, that there is still a long way to go in gay rights. We've come so far in this country, and I think that having gay marriage legalised is another huge step on the way.
When civil partnerships brought in 2004, since that time, 20,000 gay couples have got civil partnerships. They don't seem to be rushing to the altar, in my view. My concern is that the state should not be involved in this argument whatsoever. It is no business of the state. The state and the church is separate. Now let me declare a non-interest here. I have no faith. I have no religion. I got married twice, both times in a registry office. I've never had my children christened, so I don't hold a torch for any faith whatsoever. But what worries me here is that
So who recognised your marriages then? The state?
Well, I just had a civil partnership. You can call it a civil partnership.
But I mean, you just made a statement that's factually incorrect. You say you're concerned about the state not being involved. It's the state that sanctions marriage. The church does it effectively under licence. And anyway, in this country, the church is part of the state. I don't know if you've noticed.
No, it should be the complete separation.
Your much-loved monarch, I believe, is defender of the faith and head of the Anglican Church.
Although she did say the other day she was a defender of faiths.
No, that's Prince Charles.
No, she did say that, actually.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, the other day. What worries me here is that in this country we also have something called a hate crime. So if this goes through, then you've got what happens to those imams, the priests, and the vicars who have their views, and I agree, some of those views are abhorrent, but I'm no torchholder for faith. And if they turn around and say, no, this is wrong, this is abhorrent, and they use some of that language, and I don't agree with that language, then they can be called into account. They can be called into a police station. And I think...
Yes, rightfully so.
Do you?
Yes.
No, we're walking into a police state still. We're walking into a police state if we go down that road. But do they not have the right
the same institution to say that women were second-class citizens, that women couldn't have the vote?
You're not second-class citizens, absolutely not.
I know that.
All my gay friends say, we've got civil partnerships. We don't need a marriage. A marriage is a union between a man and a woman.
Why should a marriage purely be
because it's been laid down by centuries. It's tradition.
Okay, let's look.
And some of these religions...
I read that in your article, which some of it I agreed with. It's very rude of me to point. Sorry. I
don't think we're that far apart, Will.
Let's look at this institution, marriage, because marriage has allowed the woman to be subservient, if we're going centuries back, rape to happen in marriage, abuse. I think
we've moved on quite a bit from that.
Yes,
now.
we have, and we need to move on, and we need to continue to move on. Marriage is about the union between two people.
Eric Pickles, what is your view on this?
Well, I have to say I've rather changed my mind on this in recent years. I think I'm rather in favour of gay marriages, and I have to say that what I've just heard has rather made me glad I have changed my mind. I've seen people in civic partnerships, and the difference between a friend of mine who are gay have now entered into this. It's given them a degree of stability, certainty about the future, and I think if people want to make a commitment to one another, to agree to support one another, to look after one another in sickness and in health, then I think the state should provide that facility.
What do you see the difference between a civil partnership and a gay marriage being?
I don't think there is, in practice, any difference. There's no difference in law. All the various rights that will accrue from a marriage will also accrue in a civil partnership. But I'm a very blunt sort of a chap. I can't see the point of going through this pretense of thinking that civil partnership is anything other than a marriage. We should take it. Now, as for the church, we're not forcing the church. I want to make that actually clear. If the Catholic Church does not want to marry people in their churches that are homosexuals, we're not going to force them. We're not going to force the Methodists. We're not going to force the Church of England. But Will is right. The state licenses marriages, and I think as part of a civilised society, as part of a normal, respectful to our population, for those who are gay, we should provide that service.
I just wanted to pick up on the point about hate crime. On Sunday, every Catholic priest is going to stand up in church and say that they disagree with gay marriage, or equal marriage, which I prefer. And I think that's a hate crime, actually. I just wondered what the panel thought of that.
The point that Janice was making, that even to oppose it will...
No, I'm not saying...
You think counts as a hate crime?
No, I don't. I don't have a problem with people opposing it, but to stand up and to say this to everybody who's in a Catholic church, right, to ask them to deny people to have the right.
Okay, Caroline Flint, that brings us back to these words then: a gross subversion of a human right and shaming the United Kingdom, as the Cardinal said.
Well, I totally disagree with those words, and Susan's question about does gay marriage undermine the institution of marriage? No, I don't think it does. I'm on my second marriage. I think, Janice, you say you're on your second marriage. This is giving the people a chance to actually define themselves as having a marriage. Civil partnership is already there, and I'm really proud that that was one of the things as a Labour government we undertook to support, along with a number of other areas, to tackle some discrimination against people on their grounds of their sexuality. But I have to say, I thought for some time that it is a bit ludicrous that we have a registry office marriages, and then we have something called civil partnerships. Yeah. It's all about treating people equal under the law.
The civil partnership is done by the registry office.
But that's my point. Yeah, it's marriage.
But don't you understand why we have that? Don't you understand? Nobody seems to grasp why the distinction is being made. Do you understand why? It's because we have an established church.
Well,
don't you get it?
I'm not.
That's why.
No.
So the logical move, you're actually, no, follow the logic. If you say that the civil partnership is equivalent to a marriage, then you're beginning to chip away further at the establishment of the Anglican Church, unless the Anglican Church...
But Will, sorry,
David,
let me just clarify this. What do you mean by, what do the words implement equal civil marriage mean, as opposed to equal civil partnership? In your opinion?
Oh, well, I think
the government wants to
it's
introduce civil marriage, Labour introduced civil partnership.
It's everything that Janice is talking about. It's those centuries of tradition that she sees enshrined. She has no faith, so she has no right to her belief in centuries of tradition.
No, but I think other people do have a right. 5 million Catholics have a right in this country.
But it's just a matter of words, really.
No. The point is that the Church of England and other churches can marry men and women and only wish to marry men and women. So it is their susceptibilities that stop gay marriage being called marriage. Okay, so that's why the loony bishop up in Scotland flipped his wig, because he understands that once you allow it to be called gay marriage,
it can happen in church.
Yeah, there's the potential for it happening in church.
Look,
Am I right? Yes, of course.
I just believe it.
Incidentally, I mean, heterosexuals do a very good job of undermining the institution of marriage, in my experience.
Caroline Finn.
As I was saying, I actually think the time has come to sort of harmonise what we've got at the moment, which is civil partnerships and registry office marriages, weddings, into one. So whether you are heterosexual or gay, that you can go through the same process, and importantly, at the end of it, you have the same rights under the law. And those are rights that for a long, long time were denied to gay people. It doesn't affect, actually, as Eric said, and I'm glad you've changed your views on this, Eric, it doesn't affect temples, synagogues, mosques, churches from conducting their own affairs, but we have a law in this country in which all people should be treated equal.
But don't
and this
you think,
is about
Caroline,
making sure that that's
that's
happening.
That will be the next step.
No, I don't.
What will be the next
I think that's an excuse
from the
to actually
extreme
deny
gay
people
lobby.
equality.
The next step will be demanding marriages in churches and mosques and temples.
I think that...
Wait a minute, Janice.
And that will be dangerous.
Janice, just explain, why, if gay marriages are what the government is introducing, why shouldn't gay marriages be conducted in the church? That surely is what Will Self-Sustain.
Absolutely, and you know what? Some vicars will be happy to conduct.
It's up to the individual religions whether they want that. That is the next natural step. But you know how it is. You go to a church,
and if you're married in a church, it has to be recognised as a place that can solemnise marriage.
Yes. But if they don't want to, that will be the next step for the extreme gay lobbyists in this country.
All right, come in as...
What's dangerous about it?
This is the thing. You're then taking on...
Hang on, this is the kind of language...
on the religious institutions.
It's scaremongering. You know, we're not going to turn up with giant disco balls and, you know, and roller skates blaring Dolly Parton. I mean, it's sort of... but seriously, it's this kind of language. Seriously. Just to finish, it's this kind of language which I find terrifying, because it's fear-mongering, it's stirring people up. It's what the lady said there. You know, this insipid homophobia beneath this. It's not as gentle. I'm not talking about you, Janice. I'm talking about the language.
Hold on, Janice. Let me just go to one or two.
Think about it.
The man there in the spectacles.
Surely it's just a matter of semantics, really, what one calls it. And also, we're one of the few countries in Europe where registry office or mayoral marriage is not a requirement anyway, prior to going through with a religious ceremony.
But would you like to see the Church of England marrying gay couples?
It wouldn't worry me particularly.
Wouldn't worry you. And the man up there on the right.
I think calling it dangerous is... a few years from now we'll think that was ridiculous, in the same way as people called interracial marriage as dangerous 20, 30 years ago, and actually now we think that's preposterous. I hope in years to come we'll be calling it marriage, not equal marriage, not gay marriage, it's just marriage.
Just marriage.
But Janice, your concern is that you think gay couples will insist on being married in synagogues?
Not the majority, no.
But you
the
think
majority.
Some will? And
Yeah,
the,
I
and
think
the
that
law will have to...
there's always the extremists in these.
But I'm saying
whatever.
it will be illegal not to marry gay couples.
I think,
Is that what you
yeah,
will happen?
yes, I think that's a natural
Look, I think it's
extension
really
of
important
this.
that with this moderating and civilised suggestion that the state should be able to offer a gay marriage, I'd be really unhappy if we used it as a way of repressing free speech. I don't agree with the Cardinal Archbishop, but I think he's got a perfect right to speak from his pulpit. We do know, though, where the line is. He doesn't have a right, and this is actually on a recent case involving another religion, he doesn't have a right to stand up at that pulpit and say gay marriage is wrong and that gay people should be hung. He doesn't have a right to say that gay marriage is wrong and that gay people should be thrown out of the town. At that point it becomes a hate crime. Yeah. For goodness sake, for merely expressing a view that it is wrong in his view of a religion, to turn that into a hate crime would be the worst kind of repression.
We'll go on to another question from Nikki Hawley, please. Nikki Hawley.
How can the railway network